Hey guys, and welcome to Just for the Record. Today we're going to talk about how to set up a record player, and we're going to switch perspective for that immediately. Now let's introduce you to the terminology of a record player, the terms that I'm going to use, and I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible. This is called the platter. This is where you put the record. This is the spindle, the little metal knob in the middle that keeps the record in place. The tone arm is there to move the cartridge and the stylus, or needle, around the record so it can record the music and it can play the music. The counterweight and the anti-skate function are on the base of the tone arm. I'm going to tell you later how to set up both of them. On the other side, we've got the head shell with the cartridge, the stylus, like I said, you maybe call it needle, I don't care, and the pickup. And now it's going to go through all of the controls on the front side of this record player. Obviously, your record player is going to look different, and some controls maybe aren't there, or there are more. But at the end, there are just very few of them that are really crucial, and every record player has them. One of them is the lever to lift the arm, which is keeping the arm up so you can't damage the stylus. Then we've got the start and stop function. This is a fully automatic record player, which means I just need to push start and stop whenever I want, and the record player does the rest. Then there is the repeat function, which can repeat up to 5 times, or 6 times actually, or infinite, but I'm rarely using it. There is the record size control, which is 12-inch for LP, 10-inch for EP, and 7-inch for singles. We've got pitch control to further evaluate the sound that you want to have, and the speed control with 33 RPM for LPs and 45 RPM for singles and EPs. Now it's important that the record player isn't plugged in because it's going to start moving otherwise. Now that you know anything about the terminology that I'm going to use, I'm going to introduce you to your instrument. And yes, at the end it is an instrument, a fairly fine one to be honest. So first of all, where do I place this? Put it on a sturdy ground, as heavy as possible and as immovable as possible. When you've done that, you should weigh it out. You will gonna use a gauge for that. And maybe that sounds a little rubbish, but really do it. You don't need to get a big gauge because I just have a 1 meter one, which is definitely too big for this. Just get a nice app on your smartphone and put it this way on the platter, the way that the record would lay there as well. And now you can see it's perfect. If you've got it perfect, fine. If you don't, maybe put something underneath the feet of your record players, or even underneath the feet of your desk or whatever you're going to put it on. Let's get to something that is often overlooked, and that is setting up your stylus and head shell correctly. Not every record player can do this, but if your record player has adjustable screws on there, follow me as I do it. Now, your cartridge should have the right arc to your record to make sure that there is no distortion in the sound and that the sound on the left and right speakers are the same. So how do you do that? You need a Trctor for this, which is this piece of paper. You can get it for free on the Audio Technica website, for example, so don't mind. Just print it out and there you go. It's going to be linked in the description, obviously. Now that you've printed it, cut out the hole where the spindle should be, it's this big black knob, and put it over your spindle. Now try to place the stylus, or try to drop the stylus right on the point on the Trctor, which is designated for the stylus. Now you can go to a top-down view and see if the cartridge aligns perfectly with the lines on the Trctor. Mine doesn't. So I'm going to loosen the screws a little using a fine screwdriver, and I'm going to move the head shell a little bit further behind so the arc gets better. Now it's perfect, and I'm going to keep it like this. Now that the stylus and the cartridge is set up the right way, we're going to adjust the tone arm and the counterweight. First of all, if your record player doesn't have a counterweight, don't worry. Mostly it's got a spring on the back side, which you can also adjust, but I would first of all keep your hands off of that if you don't know that much about the instrument, and I can't show you here because I don't have one with a spring. Now, the counterweight has two adjustable parts on the back. One of them is just showing you numbers and doesn't do anything when you turn it, and the big one behind really moves the entire weight. So the first one is just there to tell you how much grams of tracking force you have, but you have to adjust this one as well, which means now it's important again that the record player isn't plugged in. We are gonna move the tone arm to somewhere where it can actually drop and not touch the ground, which is around there. If we would have the power supply in now, it would already start turning. Now you see it's falling down because there is too much tracking force or too much pressure. We want to have it on 0, which means that I'm now going to weigh it out. This means I'm going to turn the weight in different directions until I have a perfectly level tone arm. Now that the tone arm is perfectly level, I'm going to put the things that showing the numbers on exactly 0. So I know that 0 grams tracking force is now on there because it is floating. Most head shells do have a recommended tracking force. If you really can't find out what your tracking force on your record player is, I would recommend going somewhere between 1.5 and 2 grams. If your record starts skipping a little, you should use a little more tracking force, and yeah, use a little as you can, but as much as you must. Every cartridge should have a recommended pressure. You obviously do not want to have too much pressure on your record because it's gonna get chewed out over time. That is one of the big problems with the crosslay record players, and one of the reasons why I would not use them. They aren't gonna destroy your record instantly. You can definitely hear it dozens of times and it won't harm it. But at the end, 6 grams, or what I've read, is a little too much. But a much bigger turn down on crosslay record players, in my opinion at least, is their sound quality. The sound quality of a crosslay record player is abysmal. Sadly, but true. If you have one, no problem obviously. Use it as long as you want, and if you find out that the hobby is the right thing for you, go and get a better one if you want to, or just stick to your crosslay if you like it. But the sound quality is much worse, I think. Let's adjust the anti-skate function. Anti-skate is therefore that the record doesn't pull the needle in, because the movement of the record makes the needle want to go to the spindle. So we have to have a force working against that. If your record doesn't have an anti-skate function, perfectly fine, doesn't matter. But I would say that you should put the anti-skate function to around the same as you put the tracking force, which means if I put 1.75 grams tracking force onto this cartridge, I'm going to put the anti-skate to 1.75. Obviously this wasn't a perfect guide of setting up a record player, but if you follow all those steps, you will not damage your record player and you will not damage your records. And that is everything you want. And you can still have a very, very, very nice listening experience. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you took something out of it which you maybe didn't know already. Leave your opinion in the comments, and I'll see you the next time. Bye. So, now I hope you do know everything that you want to know. If you don't know anything, if you've got still some questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. I'll try to reply to them as soon as possible. And yeah, thank you that you sticked around for the entire video. I hope it was helpful. See you the next time. Bye.